maybe I can post it for you later. So we the results for the first assignment, I did release them. I think that SACAP is just busy checking them, so it might just be released in the next day or so. I'm not quite sure. I know the process. I do know that they do check them before it gets released. So I will let you guys know if there is any issues, but I don't see any issues sort of coming up in the next day or so. So you should have it before the end of the week, definitely. But just to give you some feedback on it, the results were very good. It is, I mean, again, this is one of those courses where if you just put a bit of effort in, you can actually do quite well. And for me, I also approach it that way because they are all of your other courses are so academic. They are so structured. And this is the one course where you can almost, I don't want to say let your head down a bit, but it's a course that you can sort of just let yourself be a bit more creative. And when I do mark, I sort of mark it within that context that here's an opportunity for students to be a bit more creative, to be a bit more relaxed. I mean, I hardly ever deduct marks for poor referencing, except if it's really, really poor. I normally sort of reward a bit of creativity, the use of things like color and the use of things like, graphics and all kinds of things. And to me, that is an opportunity for you just to sort of express yourself a bit. Because again, the rest of your course is, I don't know, you guys are doing sociology and Psych 2 and SOC 2 and I don't know so much. Victoria, what do you say?
I think the module outline in itself, it's fantastic, and I think it helps quite a bit, and also it's very informative in terms of when you go through the work in itself. But yeah, I think it's not as strict, and so I'm actually also enjoying it, but it gives me a bit of time to focus on the other, but not neglecting this as well. But yeah, and it's quite interesting, and also I think it gives you the ability to interact within a group, because sometimes it's quite hard to find out who's who in the zoo, because as the group forms, you don't know who's the leader, you don't know how to interact, and so finding your roles within that, it's quite interesting. I think it teaches also interaction and social, what do you call it, cohesion, if I can call it. But yes,
No,
thank
you're
you.
pretty right. It is, and it is challenging. So the challenging part of this course is the group work, and I can tell you that the term one we had some incidences where the group work didn't have the desired outcome, in which there was some issues. And so far, I do know there was one or two issues, Kino, in terms of expressing some reservations. But I think in overall, it was very much as I said in that first session, it is you make a decision as a group member, how you're going to approach it. You've got two options. You can fight and scream and go, yeah, you're not doing the work, and why must we carry you, and blah, blah, and all of that. Or you can say, let me just get on with it, submit the thing, do my part, and get it done. Because in a bigger scheme of things, this is one module out of many, and not all of you work the same way. Everybody has their own approach to work. Some like working under pressure, as they like saying, lastminute.com. Others do like having structure and having, focus on something way before the time and knowing when they're going to do it and how they're going to do it. Others are a lot more easier with it and just go, I'll take it as it comes. And those are some of the challenges. But then again, most of you are working adults, isn't it? Can I just have a thumbs up for most of you are working adults, as far as I know, in terms of doing this course. None of you are full-time students, I take it. I mean, most of you are working adults. You've got a job. You're working with other grown-ups, so to speak. This is what you do. I mean, you have to work with people that you don't know, and you have to work with people that you don't like. So I'm glad that things have worked out. Hi there, Andrea. I see Andrea has joined us. Hi there, Kasile. Kino, you had your hand up. You wanted to make a point?
No, I think I was just trying to put my thumb up.
Okay. Alrighty. Good. So overall, the submissions, the first submissions was very well. I mean, I can't even think of anyone. Most groups got a distinction. There was this one group that didn't get a distinction, but they got like a strong 70%. But most groups got distinctions because the way the requirements are outlined, it is just if you have the thing and it's there, then you get the mark. The assessment is built like that, so that it takes out the subjectivity of, is this a good thing or is it a bad thing, or is it up to standard? It is just, have you added this? Is this in it? Is this included in it? Yes, it is. There's the mark. And that should give you an idea of how I'm going to mark the final submission as well. So there's no more any of the, sorry, I'm just trying to get my tea ready here because I love having my tea on the side, especially for my throat. There's no more module engagement mark. So your module engagement mark will be your personal development plan. So the full personal development plan that you've submitted, that will be your module engagement mark. So I will make sure that, because I also was looking at it and I'm thinking, geez, this is a lot of work for something that's actually only accounting for half of it. So I made a executive decision to make that your full module engagement mark as well as your personal development plan mark. Yes, Victoria.
I haven't submitted mine yet because I was waiting for an indication, because the question was asked on WhatsApp at whether we should have submitted that one. So I'm not sure if I'm then late because of that.
The submission is still open. You can go to assignments and you'll see there's a submission point for it. Please go ahead and submit it.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So let me get into the business plan. So let me ask you your experience of, give me a rating out of 5. Give me an indication of how you found the first assessment, and do you think the first assessment, so it's two-parter, it's a 2-4 question, and do you think the first assessment has given you sufficient preparation to complete the business plan? So the way I'm seeing the names, I'll go from right to left. So it's Kino, Andrea, Kasile, Andrew, and then Victoria.
Yeah, for me, I'd say it's 5 out of 5. I feel like the first assessment was definitely necessary before doing the business plan, and it helped like idea generation within the group, and I think structure our thoughts leading up to the second assessment. I don't have much doubt that we're going to be able to put out what we're all collectively have agreed on.
Good. Well, thank you for that feedback. Thanks, Kino. Andrea? Kasile?
For me, it's like 4 out of 5. I feel like the first assignment was great preparation for the business plan. I feel like it would be a lot easier to do.
Sorry, Kasile, I was just struggling to hear you there, but it just was a bit muffled. I'm pronouncing your name incorrect.
I was saying that
Sorry, it's
with the first assignment, I feel like it was good preparation for the business plan. It will be much easier to do.
Okay, good. My apologies, I mispronounced the name. It's Kanyesile. Correct? Is that right? Andrea, you back with us again?
Yes, there. I found that it was a very good start for us to begin, a good preparation for us to complete at the end with the business plan. So I think it was quite a rigorous exercise, but I think we covered a lot of ground in the first assessment, and it definitely prepared for the next part.
No, that's good. Andrew?
I'm with Kino, 5 out of 5. I think our group kind of over prepared. We
Yeah,
we
I
put
saw
a
that.
lot of info in our in assessment 1 that is supposed to be in the business plan, but I think it's good because we set it out in a simpler way. So essentially we can hop on the topic that we chose, use the thought process and ideas that we had from the stuff that we were meant to implement in the second assessment, and just add on to that in terms of information. So I think for us, we're sitting pretty good. I found the activity interesting. So yeah.
Okay, good. And Victoria, how was your experience?
I think it was, I also agree, 5 out of 5, because it sets groundwork, and so it was necessary, and because we will be able to tackle the business plan quite well, I think we'll just sink into it perfectly with not much problems.
Yeah. I must say, the volume of some of the submissions, I didn't. There was a word limit, but I wasn't very strict on it, simply because I know that assessment 1 is about getting ideas on paper, and giving as much supporting not documentation, but facts and data to support some of your statements, and that was I was looking for. So for me, it was there was one or two groups that really tested that word limit to the max, but it's okay for me. However, saying that, I must caution you for the business plan. The second assessment, I am going to be a lot more stricter on the word count, simply because it requires a bit more hard work. It's easy to do a business plan of 6,000 words, but it's not so easy to do a business plan where you're restricted by the word count. Simply because you have to be a lot more succinct, you have to be a lot more directed, you have to be a lot more specific in terms of what you need to put down, and very sparing with your words. So think of now, this is where the tension lies. As I said to you before, that this is a course on entrepreneurship, but at the same time, it's also an academic submission. And this is where the tension lies with a business plan. Traditionally speaking, a business plan, you write it in such a way that you submit it to investors and to people to invest in your business, to give you money. So it's a sales pitch. but at the same time, you're also submitting an academic submission. So it has to conform to the rigor of an academic submission. And when I say rigor, that is in strong inverted commas. This is not a Psych 2 essay on cognitive thinking processes. This is not a case study. It's a business plan. So when I say academic rigor, it is inverted commas. It is, for me, I want to see you acknowledge your sources, but not in such a way that you overwhelm. You've got index referencing in every single second sentence, and you're referencing this, and you're referencing that, and you're referencing this. It must all flow in such a way that I can read it with two hats on. I can read it as a potential investor, but I must also read it as a educator that has to market. So that's the tension. And it's a very tight line to walk. It's a very tight rope to walk. It's a very fine line to walk. So do your best. I'm not going to penalize you for not referencing 100% properly. That is not how I'm going to approach it. For me, it's going to be looking at the assessment criterion and saying, okay, does it have this part in it? So let me go through the entire template that I managed to put into the course outline. Thank goodness. I just got it in on time, so that is actually part of the module outline, because this is what I gave my term 1 students. So I asked them to actually include it so that you guys can actually see it before the time. So let me share my screen. And what I want you to do is I want you to reflect on your first submission. Some of you might have it open somewhere. And as I'm going through each part of the business plan and the requirements and what I'm going to be looking for, you can please jump in and ask questions, because I'm very mindful of being too prescriptive, and in that way sort of limit you, whereas being too open without giving you sufficient guidelines might also not be wise. So I'm going to be sort of in between. There'll be places where I'll say, be creative, which is not meaning be creative, but it just means use your common sense, use your group's, discussion around what needs to be in there. There's other there's like a simple thing, like there's whole, the admin, what I call the admin part of the business plan. I mean, that's non-negotiable. That's pretty much what needs to be there in order for you to get the marks. So let me go through that part, and then we can then have a more active discussion around some of the other parts of it. So the name of the business, the date representing the current version of the business plan. So it's just very basic. It's like it's a title page, and this, you can do this. It's acknowledged by the undersigned, blah, blah, blah. Signature of reader. So that would be me, and date, name of reader, position, and company. Now, this part is not necessary. So you can leave that part out. This I included because I teach this course at another university. To become students, we include this part to hold me accountable, and also to let students know that if they should look at this business and they go, this is actually a damn good idea, let me go and research it further, that it protects them, so that I don't go off and go and start a business on the side with your idea. So that's the only reason why I've got this in here. All right. So the contact details, the name of the team members, contact number, email address. I mean, that's just for the team, just for the team leader. That's all. I mean, you don't even need to put in your contact number. You can just put in your email address, your SACAP email address. So that's absolutely okay. Table of contents, definitely. So I do have a Word document that has a format already, which I will post after the session. So the Word document is already formatted for you, very much like I did with the PDP for you. The Word document is already formatted, and it is literally taking the information and putting it in. However, the Word document is a Word document that's black and white, and it's gray, and it's boring, and it doesn't look like much. So that is where I need you to be creative. That is where I need you to put in imagery, to put in, to use Canva, to put in, whatever you need to do. However, let me just pause here. I use my iPad to mark. So I download everything onto my iPad. I use my Apple Pencil and I mark. So for the sake of clarity, please make sure that you stick with black font on white background so that I can clearly see it. As soon as that changes, then it becomes very difficult for me to see it on my iPad when I do the marking or when I'm doing it on the screen. So for the sake of clarity, stick to black onto white background, but at the same time, make sure you can put in other images as you desire to illustrate. And again, an image must speak to a point. The image must speak to a specific context. If you're busy with your marketing section and you're talking about social media, then you put in an image, then you describe, here's an example of a social media post that we would do on Instagram, for instance. I don't want just random pictures throughout the business plan that doesn't speak to a specific context or doesn't speak to a specific section. So table of contents, executive summary. So this is on a clean page. Executive summary provides an overview of the status of the business and describe what the business is about. It is a visible, complete executive summary after the entire business plan is done. So that is something that you're going to need to do at the end. I would say round about 50 to 80, 3,000 words. Yeah, 100 words max, just to give you a bit of a guideline. My Word document template does also have a guideline in it, just to give you a bit of a guide. Description of the business on a new page. A high-level look. A high-level look at how all the different elements of the business fits together. This section should include elements to include is the vision, mission, values of the business. Now, this is an odd thing, only because you can make some of it up. When I say make some of it up, let me rephrase. Geez, that sounds horrible. What is going on here? Try to take, okay, maybe, there we go, highlight rather. Okay. So the vision, mission, and values of the business, one would think that you should be able to come together and put something together. And again, it doesn't need to be precise. It doesn't have to be, we're going to be changing the world and solve world hunger. It must just be relevant to your business. Outline of the business model. Now, this is now where you're getting the information coming in from assignment 1. Outline the team, your roles and responsibilities. This is generally your normal stuff. So you can say one person in charge of marketing, one person would be in charge of operations, one person might be in charge of sort of PR, or one person might be in charge of finance and operations. Finance operations normally goes hand in hand together. One person might be in charge of marketing, and the other person might be in charge of sourcing, etc. As you most probably have read through this, you're beginning to understand that there's a lot of stuff that you just make up. The potential legal structure of the ownership, that you don't make up. And I would suggest that you say a PTY. So PTY definitely, and then just put in a little comment there. So PTY Ltd, and then you can give a description. You can say we are 5 members, and each member will have 20% shareholding, and we will have equal voting rights, etc., etc. But then you also just need to say in a sentence why you're choosing that structure. And why are you choosing that structure? It allows for you to not carry personal liability. It allows for you to be able to find investment later on. It allows for you to separate your business and your personal assets. And it allows for you, it allows limited liability. So if anything happens within the business, it stays within the business. Creditors can't come after you. I'm sure you guys did this in your first year business management course, the different business structures that there are. Industry information include the key trends. And again, this comes out of your assessment 1. There's quite a bit of information that comes out of assessment 1 for section 5 that you'll be pulling in. And again, now you need to say, okay, in assessment 1, there was a significant amount of information that was added around the industry. So now you have to be a bit more mindful and say, okay, let me take some of it and let me condense it in order for me to tell the story. Okay. So let me just pause there for a minute. Are there any questions at this point as I'm busy working through each section? Is it fairly, so far at least, straightforward and you know what you need to do, or the expectations from my side? Just give me a thumbs up if you don't want to say anything. Awesome. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Kanisile. Thanks, Victoria. Andrew? Good, thank you. Awesome. All right, please jump in if there are any sort of things that jump out at you. All right, sales and marketing plan. This section describes our intent to attract customers to buy a product and services, advertising, promotion, sales, distribution, other sales, customer services. Describe your product or service, value proposition, and how it benefits your customer and distinguishes from competitor offerings. Now, this is a very specific set. So in terms of my Word document that I have, I've broken it up into the 4 Ps. It starts off with product description, / service description, value proposition. And again, that value proposition, the wording comes from your assessment 1. How it will benefit customers will come from your assessment 1. And then, so the 4 Ps is, as you know, pricing, product, promotion, and price, product, promotion, and place, which is distribution. And within that, there's a whole bunch of questions that I have to lead you through how to answer or what to put within that section. This is also the opportunity to be a bit more, especially around promotion and advertising, to be a bit more sort of creative and say, we're going to be using social media, or we'll be using direct selling, or we'll be using network selling, or we'll be using blockchain, or something interesting that that you maybe want to try that's different. I do want to see something specific, a specific description around your USP. So just make sure that in this section you do talk to, so your USP, and that you'll do under your product description. So when you put your product description together, you'll say, our product is consists of this and this, and our USP based on our sort of research is this and this and this. Just hold on 1 second. Thanks, Doc. Hi there, guys. I'm back. My apologies. I just had somebody knocking at my door. Yeah, so when you do describe a product, do mention, I want to see that specific term, unique selling point, proposition. And again, a lot of this information you would have pulls in from assessment 1. All right, now things get interesting. Finance plan and the operational plan. What are we looking for, and how are we going to do this? Now, the finance plan, I want to leave this off for now, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to be putting together just a little video clip, in which I have I'm going to be using my iPad for it and my pen. I've got a spreadsheet that I want to talk through, and then be able to tell you exactly how to complete the spreadsheet. So I'll do that recording. It's a bit difficult on Zoom. I haven't been able to figure out how to exactly do it on Zoom. But I will be doing that, and then I'll forward that to you and just tell you, here's the YouTube link. You can go and have a look. But it is not that complicated. It is actually very simple. It's a simple spreadsheet. It has, there's 3 elements to it. Your startup budget, which you have, which you'll do on a sheet, and then your projected profit, your profit and loss statement. And again, that's a very simple profit and loss statement. And then a projected balance sheet for day 1 of your business. Now, this is, you guys didn't do accounting, hey? Can I just confirm? Am I correct in saying that part of your HR degree, you don't have accounting as part of that, eh? Your social science degree?
No.
Yeah. No. Which is fine.
Well,
yes.
Well, I think stats is part of the business side of our degree.
No, yeah, you had to do it's quants. It's part of it's a quantitative portion of it. But if you're doing a social science degree, you don't need to have accounting. So for me, this part of it, the balance sheet, I will give you the template. You then literally fill in, this is an asset, this is a liability, this is an asset, this is a liability, and it will just create a little very basic balance sheet for you. You copy it, you paste it into your document, and then you tell me below it. Actually, the best thing is you copy it, you stick it into ChatGPT, you ask ChatGPT to explain it to you. You then take that wording over, you then fix the wording up, and you write it over in your own words. And that is it. Literally 3 lines or 4 lines of text underneath your balance sheet. Because for a lot of you, based on what I've seen in assessment 1, for a lot of you, there are very little startup assets. And there's 1 or 2 of you that are looking at loans. So that would be liabilities. But yeah, it's very basic. Assets on the one side, liabilities and owner's equity on the other side, and basically it all adds up, and that's it. And I'll give you a little explanation. These are examples of assets, these are examples of liabilities. Debtors obviously would be would be an asset, and then creditors would be a liability. You've got short-term loans, long-term loans, and then you've got owner's equity in there as well. All right. So very basic. I will post that video by the end of the week to make sure that that you guys have it, so that you can start on that section. But do leave the section sort of for last. Again, if you look at the assessment criteria, sales and marketing financial plan, it is 15% out of the total. So you kind of, the places where you'll do well, I mean, industry information comes up with assessment 1, sales and marketing, half of that information comes out of assessment 1. The operation plan is the only 2 things that are 30%, a third of the total submission, which is new work. And the financial one is the most challenging part of the business plan. But as I said, I've done this now for a few years, and I've put together a little spreadsheet that will make things a bit easier. For me, it's not about the numbers. For me, it's about how do you interpret the numbers and how do you explain the numbers. That's all it is. So if you put 100 here, 500 there, 300 there, you need to explain to me why you're putting those in there. Whether the 100 and the 300 and the 500 is correct, it doesn't matter. To me, it's just about, do you understand why you're putting those numbers in there? That's all it is. Does that make sense? So then operating plan. Yes, Andrew, you got your hand up?
So would we need to provide, like, for example, a half year fiscal report or financial report or something, just to almost like estimate what we could potentially get in annual revenue at like half year?
Yes. So the basic the profit and loss statement is for 6 months, so that's your projection. So the little spreadsheet that I have is literally plug and play. You put in all of your numbers, and then the only thing you move around is things like how many units / services / unit sales you're going to make at a certain price, and what is your cost going to be if that's variable. And so those things you change each month. And then there's other things which are fixed costs. So if you say rent or use of a vehicle or whatever the case may be, however you put it together, those, for ease of reference, will just be fixed cost. This will be a fixed line. So you don't change those. So the only thing that will change will be things like how many unit sales, what is the pricing, and those things will change. And you just do a projection. You say that in the first month,
Okay.
we're not going to sell much because nobody knows about it. In the second month, we're going to sell a bit more. And then in the third month, once the advertising and the word of mouth starts developing and rolling, we'll have more people signing up for that. We'll have more people buying a subscription for it, etc. More people buying it online and so forth. And then our sales will increase and increase for the first 6 months to this amount. And spreadsheet just does all the calculations for you.
Okay. And does the spreadsheet include operating income?
That's the bottom line.
Okay.
So a profit,
Okay, cool.
Yeah, a profit and loss statement is it's a abridged a profit and loss statement is a abridged income statement.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
That's all it is. So as you play around with the numbers, you'll see at the bottom, profit for the month is minus 200, but then, and so this is where you need to play around with it, because I mean, again, this is a projection. You're not going to project that you're not going to make money, but you also have to be realistic. So if you say we aim to sell 500 units per month, how are you going to sell it? That's where you got your marketing plan in place. and you sell, we're going to sell 500 for the first month, 600 for the second month, 700 for the third month, because our marketing plan that we have in place will activate and start converting those views on the Facebook page, or those views on Instagram will start converting into sales, or the online store that we're pushing people to will start converting it to online sales, and so forth and so forth. So for me, it's not so much the numbers, but the reasoning behind the numbers that you put in that makes sense. All right. So I'm just mindful of time because I did say we'll finish off at about 1/4 past. So operating plan is in the shape of a organogram. So what you'll do is you'll drop an organogram, and you'll see the key people within that organogram. And then below that organogram, you'll just give a breakdown of their functions and their duties. And then below that, you'll have these 4 sort of headings: key resources, suppliers, and activities. Key resources and supplies, machinery and equipment, location, and then list of possible suppliers, if applicable. That's all. So the operating plan is literally, it starts off with an organogram. This is our business. This is the different people. This is who they are. This is what they do, roles and responsibilities. And these are the key resources and supplies that we're going to need. This is the machinery equipment that we're going to need. This is where we're going to operate from. And this is who our possible list of suppliers are, if applicable. Some of you won't know who those suppliers are. You'll just say you'll have a supplier for this, but you don't know who they are. So you can just write that in. Assessment of risk. Now, the risk assessment section must explain all potential risks to the normal future, and these risks must exist in variables in the macro environment, such as legislation. Okay, so this for me is an important element. And let me explain to you why. Assessment of risk, it's only 10%. So in my Word document, I've got the little table, and it's almost like a risk grid, a grid of risks. So what you'll have in it, all the macro environmental factors, all the pestle factors, political, environmental, social, technological, economic, and legislation. And then you'll say, within each one of them, you'll say, for my business, in terms of legislation, there's a new BE Act that's been put in place. Now, I know this is controversial, but let me just bear with me. Or let's go with something less controversial. The new super tax, the new sugar tax has been implemented. That piece of legislation will impact me because I sell soft drinks. How will it impact me? Will it impact me positively? Will it impact me negatively? And then the last column is, what am I going to do about it? So what is the implication? The implication is that I will have to look at sourcing alternative sugar ingredients for my soft drink or for my energy drink that I'm going to be selling. So that's legislation. Political. With the political uncertainty around the government of national unity, we know that certain laws and certain things that was passed before, there's a bit of uncertainty around it, as well as the local government elections coming up. That will also impact operations. Okay, how will it impact operations? Local governments might not function as well, and this might impact how we operate. So what is the implication of that? The implication is that I will have to put some sort of mitigation plan in place, that if my local government doesn't operate the way it should, I will, be able to still continue operations. And so forth. So each one of those pestle factors within those special factors, there's a specific element that will impact your particular business. So it's not all legislation. It's not all politics. It's not all the economic factors. There might be one particular economic factor that you want to pull out. So you pull out the one economic factor, you say inflation. Okay, inflation is a big thing. It is a rising of prices and increases of prices. How does inflation impact my business? Inflation impacts my business because suppliers are going to charge me more next month or the month thereafter for the raw materials. How will that impact my business? It will impact my business because I will have to raise my prices to my customer. How will I mitigate it? So what am I going to do about it? I might decide to buy in bulk if I can, raw materials in order to reduce the price. And I also will have to look internally in my business to be more operationally effective or reduce my prices, reduce my cost of manufacturing in order to remain competitive in the marketplace. So pestle factor, one particular element within the pestle factor, then what it means, how it's going to impact you, the implication for your business, and then finally what you're going to do about it. For me, that format best illustrates, do you understand the impact on inflation on your business, and do you know what you need to do about it? Now, this is really, I know you guys are only second year, but this is a bit more high level. And this is what I'm looking for. This is the stretch in the business plan. It's only 10%, but this is the stretch in the business plan. The financial section is going to be a stretch for some of you, but this is also going to be a stretch for some of you, because I want to see you being able to connect the different pieces and understand from a business point of view what you're going to do about it. How are you going to respond to it? Because that's the important. That for me is the important part of it. Environmental. With the heavy rains in Cape Town, once in a generation rains, more than 60 years, it has received more rains in 60 years in July that it has. What does it mean? So that's environmental. What does it mean for me? It means that, things are wet, the farmers are struggling to sow their seed and make their planting. What is going to happen to my business? Because my business is an agri type business, getting the raw materials from the farmers is going to be very difficult. Okay, so what am I going to do about it? I might have to find an alternative source for my agri product in order to make sure that all my eggs aren't in one basket. So that's really, and it is a stretch, because for some of you, you might not have thought through those type of implications. Most times when analysis get done around things like pestle, it sort of stays very superficial. It stays at the inflation, higher prices, people can't afford. Okay. And it just stays there. For me, the most important part of that is, what are you as a business going to do about it? So it does require you to think a lot more strategically. Conclusion, address the strength and weakness of this business idea and provide the rationale for why this business is worthy of implementation and investment. Now, for me, a positive or a negative conclusion is absolutely fine. You can get to the end of this business plan and you can turn around and say to me, Theo, after having done the numbers, after having written down operational plan, after I've looked at everything, and after I've done the risk assessment, I realize this thing is never going to work, which is absolutely fine. To me, that means that you've taken a hard look at it and you're not living in cloud cuckoo land. Or you can turn around and say, listen, yes, there's a lot of assumptions in this business plan. There's a lot of information that we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things that we've made up. But at the core of it, this business has potential. Or you can say, we've done the numbers. This thing is going to fly. We know it's going to work. For me, your rationale should be grounded in reality. And if the business, after writing down the entire business plan, you realize that this thing is, no, it's not going to work, then you say it. You know, for me, I want that grounded reality rather than trying to sell me a dream. And then finally, in terms of appendices, you've got a business model canvas, market research information. Again, you don't need to include all of these things. So the curriculum vitae of the business owners, what I would suggest is please don't include your CVs. Just include underneath the introduction where you have the here in front, the list, the name of team members. What I want you to do is just copy, just take put your LinkedIn profile link on it underneath your name. So here's the name, Andrea Labaskachny, LinkedIn profile link. I'm not going to go and have a look at the link. It is just to satisfy this criteria, which is a curriculum vitae of the business owners. That's all. And your LinkedIn profile is your curriculum vitae, essentially. If you don't have product specifications, some of you are looking, I think one group is doing an app. If you don't have and Canva is very good at doing mock-ups, please include that. Don't worry about non-disclosure agreements. This confidentiality agreement on top is more than sufficient to cover that requirement. Market research information, if you have that, and then a copy of your business model canvas, again, included in it. Let me have a look. We've covered off all of the different sections, conclusions, annexures. All right. It is a fantastic little project. It sort of pulls everything together. And most importantly, it does give you so guys, what I would suggest in terms of, I'm almost done. What I would suggest is don't give the different parts to different people in your team to do and then put it together. What I would suggest is that all of you do all of the sections, one section at a time, and you put it together. So maybe one person does the title page, all of those type of stuff, the table of contents, one person does the executive summary, and then all of you do the description of the business together, and then you put it together. All of you do the industry, and again, that comes a lot out of your assessment one. So maybe you allocate one person to do it. And then the sales and marketing plan, all of you do a sales and marketing plan, and then you put it together and you take the best bits from everyone in order to make one good one. The financial plan is going to be intricate, but again, with a spreadsheet, it should be straightforward. Maybe ask one person to do it, and you just make sure that you give them the right information. The operating plan, again, all of you put it together. Maybe one person does the framework, and then all of you just add your different elements to it and your different sort of information added to it. Risk assessment, the same thing. Maybe one person draws up the table, and all of you sort of add in your information, and then you sort of edit out until you have the best out of all of it. And I think that's the best way of approaching something like this, because if you are going to break it up and give one person to do this, another person to do that, and another person to do that, oof, you're asking for trouble, I can tell you that much. Yeah, but all of you submitted assessment one, all of you did well. I do know that there was one or two groups that did struggle a bit, but the submissions was done. And to me, that means that you did what you needed to do. All right. And that sort of draws me to a close. Are there any questions or any comments? All righty. Thank you very much, Ron. Victoria. Thank you, Kino. Thank you, Kanisile. Thanks, Andrew. I take it all of you guys are the group leaders. I'm just looking at the names. So you nominated yourself to come onto tonight's session to make sure that you have all the information. I am going to upload the video clip to YouTube as I've done before, and then share it on the WhatsApp group as well. Guys, you were awesome this evening. Thank you very much for all of your comments. All the best with the submission. And again, do what you need to do. It's not terribly difficult. It's just a bit of work. It's quite a bit of it's a volume of work more so than the difficulty of it. All right. Okay, guys. Have a good evening. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Andrew.
Bye.
No problem. Okay. Bye-bye.